All right, homework should be turned in, list 11. Amy, sit down, please. Amy, don't get the phone taken away again.
I know. This time for sure, no.
All right. So homework is in the tray, list 11, 7 through 12 twice. But let's go ahead and go, something fabulous. That's all I heard. All right. Let me pull up what we have today. Let's go ahead and take out our vocab, and let's go over exercise A together. Exercise A. Okay? Page number 9D. Jinx, you owe me a soda. Pinch Coke, you owe me Coke. What? Under roofs? Interesting. All right, page number 9D. Go ahead and start working on exercise A. Exercise A. We are on page 90 in our vocab books, for those of you distant learning, when you're watching this later. Sophia, you need to bring your own book tomorrow. Yuvia can give me number 1. After we had waited at the restaurant for 30 minutes, the waiter's absence began to blank us. Good. Disconcert. Number 2, Austin. The blank of complaints caused the restaurant manager to evaluate the performance of his employees. Influx. Good. Number 3, Ricky. The small child blank dropped his plate full of spaghetti when he tripped. Okay, well then give me number 4. To my horror, the blank chair collapsed beneath me right in the middle of the ceremony. Decrepit. Good. Isaac, give me number 3. The small child blank dropped his plate full of spaghetti when he tripped. Doug? Inadvertently. Okay, inadvertently means, where is it? Not properly attentive, accidental. Okay, so accidentally dropped his plate when he tripped. Number 5, missionaries in foreign countries often have to deal with those who are in bondage to blank powers. Maya? Sophia? Okay, well then you both give me number 6. Who has number 5? Aaron? Andrew. Number 6, many Americans blank the idea of tax hike, preferring instead a cut in government spending. 6. Deprecate, okay? Girls, you have number 5? Missionaries in foreign countries often have to deal with those who are in bondage to blank powers. Not inert. Okay, make sure you guys find that one. Number 7, the student's blank attitude gave the teacher the impression that he did not care about his studies. Avery? Nonchalant. Good. Number 8, knowledge is not a blank and passive principle which comes to us whether we will or no. Elijah? Not obtuse. Okay, inert. Good. Okay. Knowledge is not inert or lacking power or inclination to move or act or sluggish. Okay, knowledge is not a sluggish and passive principle. Passive kind of gives you a word that what it's kind of like a clue that it's talking about something about knowledge and it's not lazy or anything like that. Okay. Number 9, although the new candidate was eager to learn, the department discovered that he was a bit too blank for the detailed nature of the program. Adrian? No. Make sure you find that one. Okay, girls, do you have number 5 yet? Okay. Adrian's looking for number 9. Let's go for number 10. The blank voice of conscience is very evident in Edgar Allan Poe's Telltale Heart. Amethyst? Inexorable. Number 11. A false balance is blank to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. Derek? Abomination. Good. Number 12. The blank mother wasted away as she continually mourned the loss of her husband and children. Lena? She's mourning. The last one. Number 12. What word there can we put there? She's really, really sad because she lost her husband. Okay, look for number 12. Okay? Adrian? Number 9? We already used disconcert. Were you not paying attention? Could only be one of 3 things. Yulia? Okay, no, not disconsolate. So, although the new candidate was eager to learn, the department discovered that he was a bit too blank for the detailed nature of the program. Okay, something that he's not fit for the job. What vocabulary word that we could put there that might say, he's maybe not fit for this job? I didn't call on you. Adrian, you have it now? Obtuse. There you go. Okay, number 5. Missionaries in foreign countries often have to deal with those who are in bondage to blank powers. What do you think missionaries deal with on the daily basis, Maya and Sophia? It is a cult. Good. Okay. Number 12, Lena. The blank mother wasted away as she continually mourned the loss of her husband and children. Disconsolate, meaning hopelessly sad. She lost her husband. There you go. Good job, guys. Okay. So you should have done 7 through 12 last night. Make sure that's turned in. Go ahead and put that away and take out your literature books. Literature books. I'm not sure if they cut out or anything. Okay. For some reason, I'm not sure if it cut out, but we just finished vocab and now we're moving on to literature. Go ahead and turn to page number 281. 281. Okay. Actually, we'll talk about 281 after everyone's turned in their reading quiz from yesterday. So those of you just learning, make sure you turn that in today. I know the stream was uploaded, but that needs to be turned in today. But go turn to page 292, okay, page 292. That was last night for homework. Okay, all you were reading was Job chapter 38 and 42. And to be honest, we're just going to talk specifically about the background of this because it kind of summarizes a lot of things for you. Job 38 and 42 obviously talk about when Job was persecuted and he was going through trials and he was, God let Satan basically test him and try him so that God or Job could prove that he was loyal to God. And we see that here. If you guys look on page 292 in your background there, let's go ahead and read it together, okay? A study of the book of Job, which is considered the oldest book in the Bible. You want to highlight that, okay? Job is considered the oldest book in the Bible. Verifies that it is much more than just mere literature, for it reveals secrets that no man could find out without special revelation from God. And the way that God reveals himself to us is basically during either special revelation or direct revelation or indirect revelation or general revelation, basically meaning that he gives humans or not just Christians, he gives all humans just a way to where we can find out who God is and see who he is for ourselves and know that there's some kind of higher power out there. Yeah. No, you're good. So that is the study of Job here, and we know that no man can find without special revelation from God. So if you read about it, obviously all these supernatural things happen to Job all of a sudden and in such a short period of time and for years and years at best, right? So we know that, okay, maybe there is a God that allowed a man, a mere mortal, to endure so much pain and suffering, yet still chose not to go against his beliefs and go against God, okay? If you guys look at the last sentence of that first paragraph, Job may have lived during the time of the patriarch Isaac, or he may have lived much earlier, even before the flood. Job was perfect. He feared God, and God pointed out Job to Satan as an example of the faithful believer. Satan, however, questioned Job's motives and claimed that Job served God only for selfish reasons because God had blessed him. So that's what it's talking about here, chapter 38 and 42, how Satan said, he's only happy because you blessed him so much. So God said, well, then I'll let you test him and I'll let you try his faith. I'll let you inflict all this suffering on him and I'll prove to you, or it's just going to prove that my relationship and his relationship is real, okay? So it's just kind of like a little challenge to us, or maybe something that we can take out of it is, are we only happy and are we only on good terms with God because he's given us so much? And then as soon as, the trial comes or something comes in our lives where it's not happy, do we curse God and do we hate God and do we just live our life in our own power? Okay, so with Job, obviously that was not the case. Even his wife said you need to just curse God and die. But Job, he would still not do that. And he would still be faithful to God. And it just kind of goes on to say how his three friends came to comfort him, but they didn't understand God's purpose for Job and suffering. And then all these people, they were judging him too. They said, well, maybe he's sinned and God is punishing him. So they were judging him on that. So Job had adversity on all sides. He had adversity in his home. He had trials in his home. His friends, they weren't there for him. They judged him, saying, oh, maybe he went through some kind of sin. So maybe that's why God is punishing him. His own wife, said that he needed to just deny God and curse God. Okay? But he did not. Look at that last sentence on page 293. Okay? The book of Job is different from human literature in two ways. Okay? It gives a perfectly accurate account of a true event, and it proclaims eternal truth unmixed with error. You want to highlight that sentence, okay? It gives a perfectly accurate account of true events, so something that happened to Job, and it wasn't just a fairy tale. A lot of kind of what we learned about in the Epic of Gilgamesh when we read it, okay? But it also just kind of describes a true event, but still unmixed with error. And in the Epic of Gilgamesh, we're going to go into depth a little bit more. There are just some certain things about biblical events that the people who wrote or sung or spoke of the Epic of Gilgamesh kind of got twisted. And we'll learn about more tomorrow after people have made up their quiz. But yeah, so God speaks to Job 38 and 42. Is basically just the account of God's supernatural power in Job's life. Okay? No homework for tonight, obviously, since it is Wednesday, but we are going to have one more story in this unit, and then we'll start review for our test over units 10 and 11 for next week. All right? So no homework in literature. We'll discuss Epic of Gilgamesh, Isaac and Sophia. Make sure we're going to make up your quiz after this. But then last but not least, go ahead and take out your grammar books, okay? Grammar books, and then turn to your adjective clause page. Okay, you also have to make up your grammar quiz that you missed yesterday. Okay? I'll give you another day to make up the grammar quiz, but the reading quiz needs to be made up today, since that was Monday's homework. I did not say, because I'm still turning. Yes. Okay, page 236, using adjective clauses, okay? Guys, look at number 1. A clause is a group of words that contains what? Both a subject and a verb, okay? We already learned clauses, okay? Who remembers what clauses we learned, class? Noun clauses, okay? Independent clauses, but noun clauses. A clause is a group of words that contain a subject and verb, okay? Remember, with clauses, they have introductory words like whomever, whichever, that, if, okay? Nothing different than what we've talked about before. There are signal words that'll tell us, okay, this is a dependent clause, okay? Dependent clauses, they cannot stand on their own, all right? So for example, just to refresh your memory, when you walk up to someone and say, where we could have eaten for breakfast, does that make sense? No, okay? So, little sentences within an independent clause make up your dependent clause. Independent clauses are the ones that can stand on their own. They're independent, they're free, they can stand on their own, okay? They're freestanding. Dependent clauses, they are dependent upon that freestanding clause, all right? So just to refresh your memory, since some of you guys have a little trouble remembering things sometimes, okay? That's how you that's how you recognize a dependent clause. Look at number 3. A dependent or subordinate clause does not express a complete thought and cannot stand on their own. For example, okay, it acts as a noun, adjective, or adverb within the sentence. We've already learned the noun, okay? Dependent clauses, they can function as direct objects. They can function as predicate nominatives depending on your verb, right? they can function or they can be used as appositives. Okay, further explaining a noun. Same thing here, except now, rather than being a dependent clause that's using as a noun, whether it's a DO or a subject or a PN, independent clauses and dependent clauses, dependent clauses can be used as adjectives. And what do adjectives describe, class? Nouns and pronouns. If we haven't gotten that by now, I quit. Okay? So, dependent clauses describe, functioning as adjectives, they describe nouns and pronouns. Okay? So that's the only difference between adjectives and noun clauses. You're still going to have an introductory word. It's still going to have a subject and a verb. Okay? It's still going to be used as something. Okay? But in this case, is it being used as the subject? Then it's a noun. Is it being used as a direct object? Okay, I know it's a noun clause and I don't have to worry about it. Okay, but if it's an adjective clause, we know it's describing a noun or a pronoun. Okay, look at number 5. Adjective clauses are introduced by words called what, class? Relatives. Okay, who, whom, which, that are relative pronouns. So you're going to see your clauses that are introduced with these relative pronouns here. Who, whom, which, and that. If you see the word who, okay, maybe that could be a dependent clause. If you see the word whom, which, that. Those all could be dependent clauses. Notice this, okay? The last sentence in number 5. When and where are relative what, class? Adverbs. So when we see the words when and where, what do we automatically assume that they are? Adverbs, okay? But we're still going to have to watch it and still need to analyze it in our heads, okay? But when and where are relative adverbs. So we're always going to see, mostly with adjectives, who, whom, which, and that, okay? Number 6, a relative serves as a grammatical function within its own dependent clause, okay? So what that means is, even though it's introducing your dependent clause, okay, remember when we have a clause, we bracket off, right? We find our clause and we put brackets around it. Then within those brackets, you're not looking at anything else. Within those brackets, who, whom, which, and that are always being used as something. Whether it's the subject, whether it's in a preposition, whether it's whatever, okay? Who, whom, and that are always being used as something within the clause, okay? Yes, they introduce the whole phrase, but within the clause, they can function as something, okay? That's why when we had a noun clause, the words that, the words whether, and if, within the clause, they weren't being used as anything. That's why we diagram them above the clause. But the words who, whom, and which, and that within adjective, within an adjective clause are being used as something, okay? Within a noun clause, obviously the word that is above, but in an adjective clause, who, whom, which, and that, they are being used as something, okay? So that's what a relative does. Number 2, it joins the dependent clause that it introduces to another clause, basically joining the independent clause to the dependent clause. And then number 3, refers to the antecedent in another clause, okay? The antecedent is the noun or pronoun being modified by the adjective or a clause. Class, what's an antecedent again? The word for which what stands? The word for which a pronoun stands. So he, okay? Austin would be my antecedent. She, Yuvia is my antecedent. So whatever my antecedent is, okay, it refers, like this adjective clause would describe that, or it could refer to whatever antecedent, okay? So basically, for example, if you say the girl who had yellow shoes, okay, who had yellow shoes is my dependent clause referring to girl, okay? So that's what adjective clauses are going to do. All right, let's practice it. Exercise A, number 1, okay? Underline each subject 1 time and each verb 2 times, okay? Circle each relative, and then put parentheses around the adjective clause. So we know that relatives introduce adjective clause. So you're going to circle the first word of the adjective clause, then you're going to put parentheses around the whole thing, okay? Then outside of the clause, we're going to find our subject and our verb, okay? But you can also find your subject and your verb within the clause. So let's look at number 1. Father showed us the cottage where he had lived as a boy. Okay? What's my main subject and my main verb? Class? Father showed. Good. Okay? Are there any relatives within the sentence that'll tell us we have a dependent clause? Where? You would circle that. Good. Okay? What do I put parentheses around? Where he had lived as a boy. That is my entire clause. Awesome. Now, within that clause, where he had lived as a boy, what's my subject and my verb? Awesome. He had lived. Good. Okay. Is where describing anything? It is an adverb, so it would be describing where he lived. Good. Okay. No. I just wanted to make sure you guys knew the differences between them, okay? So where he lived as a boy, where is my relative? Okay? Number 2, I am a companion of all them that fear thee. Okay? What's my main subject and my main verb, class? I am. Awesome. Okay? Any relatives that I could see here? That, I would circle it. Good. And what's my entire clause? That fear thee. Good. Okay? In that subject, or in that clause, what's my subject and my verb? Good. Okay? Verb is what? Fear who or what fear? That. Okay? Notice within this clause, it's functioning as the subject. Okay? Number 3. Sorry? Number 3. Jason Norman is perhaps the only one whose schedule will allow him to help. Okay? My main subject and my main verb. Go. Jason Norman is. Good. Any relatives to circle? Whose? So what's my entire clause? Awesome. Whose schedule will allow him to help. Now within the clause, subject and verb. Schedule will allow. Austin, stop biting your fingers and participate, please. Number 4. The sargassum fish resembles the seaweed it inhabits. Okay? This actually is an understood relative here. Okay? Listen, so the sargassum fish resembles the seaweed, and this is basically saying that it inhabits. Okay? So make sure you watch for understood relatives here. Okay? So, I just told you your relative, but you can put it above with the word that and circle it. But what would my entire clause be, class? That it inhabits. Awesome. Now, within that sentence or within that clause, what's my main subject and my main verb? Good. It inhabits. And now, outside of the clause, what's my subject and my verb? Fish resembles. Awesome. Okay. Go ahead and do 5 through 8. And then we'll check it, and then we will be done. Okay, number 5. What's my main subject and my main verb, class? He hath. Awesome. What's my relative I circle? That. What's my whole dependent clause? Awesome. Now within that clause, subject and verb, that believeth. Good. Number 6, Charles Finney, for whom the Broadway Tabernacle in New York was built, was a revival preacher in the 1800s. Main subject and main verb? Charles Finney was. What's my relative? Whom. Good. What's my entire clause? Good. Now within that clause, what's my subject and verb? Broadway Tabernacle was built. Good. Number 7, Bleak House is one of the greatest novels that Charles Dickens ever wrote. Subject and verb? Bleak House is relative. That. What's my entire clause? That Charles Dickens ever wrote. Subject and verb within that clause. Charles Dickens wrote. And then number 8, Lord, of the years that are left to me, I give them to thy hand. Main subject and main verb. I give, what is Lord, class? It is direct address, addressing the Lord. Good. I give, what's my relative? That, what's my entire clause? That are left to me, subject and verb within the clause. That are. Awesome. Okay? These are an introduction to the clause, nothing new, just being used differently within the sentence. Okay? All right. Good job today. No homework for tonight. And Isaac and Sophia, get out a sheet of paper and you guys can take your quiz. Yeah.